Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are reviewing the entire third season of The Office in the United States. And there's 23 episodes, and we'll go from last place to first place. And Marco and I are not probably, I doubt, in agreement with them, so they will be mine and his separate. So, anyway, so we'll begin with number 23. And what is your 23, Marco?
My worst episode of season 3. Well, before we get started, I'm just going to say overall, it's hard to say if this... I guess this season is better than season 2. I guess if you prefer to have like a more... a more developed show, because the second season is more of a comedy show. And the very few drama storylines, they're kind of like in the background. Whereas in this season, it feels like all the drama comes to the forefront with a lot of like stories that happen, like Michael's relationship with Jan, beginning and ending and then beginning again. And then, Jim dating Karen and all that crap. And just all these very dramatic storylines that kind of like, they can kind of take over the comedy. I mean, there's so many episodes in the season where there's something huge happening. Like, there's one where they have a merger. There's one where, they have the beach games episode where they're, they have the Diwali episode. Like, there's so many episodes where something very climactic is happening. Compared to season 2, where it just kind of felt like almost every episode it was just all about comedy. It was all about the jokes of whatever story that they were telling, with a little bit of drama sprinkled here and there. But for some reason, I think that season 3 is a lot better, even though, as I said in season 2, I don't really like the Jim and Pam stuff at all. Because I think it's kind of queer how they just kind of stretch it out as long as possible, where it just becomes like, okay, they're both kind of terrible people, with what they do, by just kind of like using other people and not just dating each other,
Well, it could be they were doing it because, one, they kept getting their connections crossed. In other words, he wanted to be with her, but she was with Roy and didn't want to be with him. And then she wanted to be with him, but he was going out with Karen and thought, with you, I've been there, done that. Like a kind of a miscommunications thing.
I just think it's kind of stupid.
Well, they do drag it out.
Especially because of the fact that, like, this whole story could have been over at the end of last season, when Pam was all of a sudden, for no reason, like, I can't be with you. We're just kissing because we're drunk and everything, And it's like, ugh. Like, the whole storyline could have ended right then and there. But instead, she's, like, randomly like, no.
That's why, she breaks up with Roy. When they get back, they're broken up. And I was shocked because she seems so clear about what she couldn't do, but she really wasn't.
Well, that's what's frustrating, is that it makes her character less likable, because to me it's almost like she sees Jim as someone who's not good enough to be with her or something. She's got to be with Roy. It's all about Roy. Roy's everything, and Jim's not good enough. And so it's just kind of weird, because it's like, why was she so unsure? It's just stupid. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But I guess, I mean, for the purposes of just like drama and romance crap, you know. But my worst episode of the season, I want to get through this a little bit faster than usual, hopefully, because this is like the most, I think, the best season of the series, or maybe it is. We'll have to figure it out by the end of it. But my worst episode is Back from Vacation. You know, we somewhat enjoyed the episode when we watched it because it had all the deleted scenes put in. But I just think this is a very bare bones episode, and it's kind of ruined by all the deleted scenes being taken out because they have like this big fun party down in the warehouse when they're doing inventory. And it seems like they could have just made an episode called Inventory, and they could have had like that party stuff be like the center of the episode, and had the Jan and Michael stuff be like a subplot. Because as it is, I just don't think it's very good. I don't like the whole stuff with Michael where he's like, he's doing he has that instrument that he got from Jamaica, and he just keeps playing the same couple of notes over and over again.
That's a big instrument, too.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how he would have had that on the plane.
The whole poster thing, I was just like, yeah, I don't really like this very much at all. The only thing that I really liked about the episode, which I still think is funny, is when they see that it's Jan on the poster, and he says, no, that's not Jan, it's Urkel Gru. It's a Swedish woman. And so I thought that was really funny, but other than that, do not like it at all.
And Urkel is actually a character from...
Safi?
Well, I know, but that's where he got the name. He made that up at the last minute, right?
Yeah.
And that's a boy's name.
I don't know if that's...
It's from a comedy.
But that does sound like kind of a Swedish name, though.
I don't know.
Urkel Gru.
Well, my worst episode is the convention. I just thought it wasn't funny, and it was just a bunch of random events, and nothing seemed to go right, and I don't know, I just didn't think it worked at all. And like Marco said, of course, I had never seen this series except for the holiday episodes before, but you know, I can judge an episode to be funny if I laugh during the episode, and I just didn't think it was very funny at all, and it didn't do anything for me. So the next one is 22. What's your episode?
My next one is the convention.
No.
And I just thought this was another very bare episode.
Yeah, very bare.
It seemed like it was necessary, though, because I don't know.
It just, I didn't think it had any, they could have done without it, but of course, see, that is
I
part
guess,
of business.
Well, no.
Convention.
Well, yeah, that's what's frustrating, is that this could have been a great episode, I guess, if there was anything to it. I guess the only reason why it was really necessary is to explore why Jim left Scranton. You know, the whole thing about him telling Michael that it was because of Pam.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But it just, the way that the episode was executed was terrible. It was very, very bare and just kind of dull. Like, there's hardly anything of note about the episode, honestly.
Okay, my number 22 is grief counseling, and half of it was irritating and the other half was dumb. I just didn't care for it because Michael was grieving over a former office worker who nobody else seemed to know. Nobody. And he was mad that none of them were grieving over him. And then that was half of the episode. The other half was there was a dead bird out in the parking lot, and Michael somehow connected that with the dead office worker, and
Safi, he was the boss.
Yeah, I know, but still, he was.
The whole point of the episode was that Michael was connecting to it, and thinking about he was going to die being a low-level boss in a company. That's what it was really about, Safi.
Well, it didn't do. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way he acted with the other employees, like they're supposed to grieve with them, and when they don't even know him at all. They would never, if they'd seen him on the street, they'd never recognize him, and they'd never heard about him. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them had, a couple of them had, but for the most part, none of them knew who he was. And then they get this baby, or just this bird that got killed out in the parking lot, and Pam holds this little funeral for it. And I just thought that was dumb. I didn't like it.
My next episode is the coup.
Oh,
And-
really?
And this one's tough because I used to like this episode quite a bit. I love the part, of course, where Dwight comes back from the dentist, quote unquote, and he has the whole back and forth with Michael, and Michael completely destroys him.
He does.
But I just think, like, I don't know, like, it's another episode that feels kind of bare to me. It feels like there's not really much that happens in this episode. Like, I don't know, like, I want to like it. It's just that overall, I don't think that it's one of the best episodes of the season. It is an important setup episode, though, because it establishes that maybe Dwight that Dwight was betraying him, and so maybe in the future he would betray him again. So it was necessary, but again, I thought it was very bare. And I did not like when Dwight took over the office, or when he thought he was going to be boss, because it just reminds you of how, like, as much as you like Dwight, there's a lot about him that is not likable. Like how he's like to Angela, you can be in charge of the women. And that was just, like, cringeworthy, because, like, if you were really, like, about leading and being a dominative personality of the whole office and just being in charge of everyone, why would you let someone be in charge of an entire other gender? Like, that's just weak sauce. And then I think, wasn't he saying he was going to fire everyone or something? Like,
Yeah, he wanted to make a lot of changes.
The few of you that will remain under my employ will be led into the black or something like that. And it's like, yeah, you're an idiot.
And he didn't
So-
and he thought some of them were too bright of colors.
Yeah.
He wanted everybody to dress like in a monotone or something. I don't know. It's just really dumb.
So I didn't really care for that episode very much, but I still thought that there were some funny jokes in it. Safi?
Okay, well, my next episode 21 is cocktails. And Marco might not agree with me for this. I don't know.
I used to really hate that episode.
And then again, this is like a half and half episode where you have half of the people are at one kind of quote cocktail party, the boss's house, and the other half of the employees are at a bar celebrating. So it's kind of like two separate stories connected by having cocktails. So the boss's one is just, Michael is he's so childish. I don't know. And then Jill is like,
Jill?
Jan.
Who's Jill?
Jan, sorry.
Who's Jill?
Jan.
Who's
is
Jill?
Like she's actually, I don't know if she's a sex addict or something. I mean, I think by the end of this...
She's really gross.
I know. By the end of this season, she's like nuts. I mean, you can see how crazy she is. And even some of the other employees say that. They agree, but there's this... And another thing, too, is Michael brought potato salad.
Yeah.
And he said that it had been sitting in his car all day in the heat. And it had mayonnaise in it.
And I questioned to Safi, are people going to die from that? From eating that?
Well, they could get really sick.
Well, I thought that was hilarious.
And but also, she has her whole, like, appetizers and things out on the table, and they're all like on silver, or look like silver plate, but really nice serving dishes. And so he brings this potato salad in this plastic, like, Tupperware container, and she leaves it open, and he says, "Oh no, you better keep the top on because of so it wouldn't be good to leave it exposed because of bacteria or something, even though it'd been sitting in the car all day in that plastic container in the sun, because he drives a convertible with the top down a lot of the time, so it would have been sitting right in the sun."
My next episode is grief counseling. I used to really hate this episode, and I despised it. But after watching it again, maybe it's the deleted scenes that are added into it, I don't know. But, like, I liked it a little bit better than I did, and so I thought, it's okay. It's okay. It's not really one of the greatest episodes, but
it's not one of your favorites because it's down near the bottom.
But the thing is that, again, I'd rather have a handful of episodes that I don't like out of, like, 20-something episodes where I mostly love all of them. I'd rather have that than just have 10 episodes where I don't like the majority of them.
Yeah.
Like with the Goosebumps series last year, and all the recent series where there's no creativity allowed. It's like everything has to be short. And the new Daredevil series that they're working on? Well, they just announced it's going to be a 2-season series. Like, why would they do that? Like, so it's not a real TV show. It's a limited series. That's a limited series because that's the definition. You're limiting creativity down to, like, okay, we can only do 2 seasons, and I just think, like, that's fucking retarded.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's like they really fucked up Daredevil already because, like, the guy who wanted to continue making Daredevil at Netflix, he had ideas for, like, 5 more seasons.
Wow.
But, since Disney sucks, we're only going to get 2 seasons of woke trash. So, Safi, what's your next episode?
Well, my next episode is Business School. That's number 20.
Oh.
And I thought it's very interesting because the way Ryan takes Michael to one of his classes, and he does this because if he brings somebody in like Michael, who's the boss of this printing outfit, then his letter grade will be bumped up a level. So, I mean, it's not just because he thinks Michael's the greatest and has something wonderful to say, but he also gets, quote, extra credit. And Michael, he seems to, I don't know, he just has a vision of what it is and it isn't. And he kind of makes a real big ass out of himself, which, gee, that's never happened in this series.
Well, let's stop, recapping the entire episode.
That's half of the episode, and then the other...
Well, let's stop doing that and just say what you like and don't like instead.
Well, I did not like that at all.
Okay.
I thought he acted childish, and almost like he threw a temper tantrum.
I guess it's a really strange takeaway to take away from the episode. But anyways, my next episode is The Job. I thought... I'm probably going to have to move Casino Night all the way down to below The Job because I thought it is a good finale to a certain extent. It's just that I really don't like the decision-making in this episode. I don't like how Michael immediately gets back with Jan because she gets a boob job. I think it's a very negative thing because she's like an abuser. Controlling and manipulating her abuse victim. And then also I don't like how he basically had the job in the bag. I mean, there was no one else who really deserved the job. I mean, Jim did not deserve it. I mean, he wasn't even a number 2 the entire season. Like, well, I mean, he was, but, like, he wasn't. Like, when he came back to Scranton, he was supposed to be Michael's number 2.
Right.
And he never does anything at all the whole season in regards to that. You know, like, there's never any storyline with him wanting to become, like, a more assertive figure in the office anywhere. So it just doesn't make sense at all that he'd be interviewing for that job that Michael was supposed to get.
Yeah, but you saw who got the job.
And then Karen, she didn't deserve it. I mean, she never showed any qualities of a whatever, like a leader or anything. And then Ryan, who the hell knows why Ryan got the job?
Yeah, he's getting an MBA. That's the only thing, because they mentioned that in the conversation.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
I just think that's really cringeworthy.
I didn't.
He did not deserve the job at all.
No.
And it's especially cringeworthy because of earlier on in the season, the way that he talks about his boss and the way that he talks about the company and how they're going to go out of business because they suck and they're outdated and everything. It's just really shit. It's a very dark ending of an episode because it ends terribly with Brian getting that job and Michael's back in his abusive relationship but it's okay. Like I mean, also you have the thing with Jim and Karen where he's dragging her along the whole episode and using her, and then all of a sudden he's like, actually, I'm gonna go be with Pam now.
She gave him a little note. You saw that.
So what?
Well, I know that, but that kind of, it showed him that she really did care. I guess.
And Karen never showed him that she cared.
I don't know, but he really was always in love with Pam.
Karen is like a million times better than Pam. Except for like how they make her act towards the end of the season where she kind of becomes a little bit of a bitch.
A little stick in the mud.
Yeah.
That's what I would call it.
But still, I mean, she's a lot better than Pam, in my opinion. Like, she didn't date Roy, you know. So that's already an improvement.
Okay, well, my next episode it's 19. It's Initiation. And that was bizarre.
Really?
It was just bizarre, and I didn't think it was that funny.
Oh, that's a total lie. When you saw that episode, you thought it was the greatest thing of all time.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
You laughed through the whole thing, and you said that one's the best one so far.
No, I didn't. I have something else that's the best.
You loved Initiation.
No, I didn't.
You're lying.
No. Just going to try to find my little notes here.
You're totally lying.
Oh, we can't just sit here. But it's really Dwight takes Ryan out for an initiation because he didn't get along with Jim, and he thought maybe he and Ryan could kind of get together and be more friends and get along. Actually, this is in my C category, so I gave it a C+. So, and then another thing that happens in the episode is Jan she sees Michael he never really does any work. Maybe before he used to make a lot of sales and did a lot of work, but it doesn't seem like he does much of anything. So she wants an hour-by-hour account of what he does.
That's deleted scenes. That whole plot is not in the regular episode, so...
And she asked Pam to also do it. And an hour-by-hour...
Or wait, is this the Pretzel Day episode?
Yes.
Oh, never mind. It is in the episode, but not to the extent it's in the deleted scenes.
It's also Pretzel Day, and every year they have one day a year where... I don't know who it is. The people on the building?
Yeah.
Somebody installs a pretzel.
And you're doing the recapping thing, by the way.
Anyway, it was three-part, it was made up of 3 parts, and those were the 3 parts. Pretzel Day, this thing between Dwight and Ryan, and the hour by hour, and Pam, you should see, she keeps, that was funny, that part. In fact, that was the funniest part of the whole episode, which when Pam would write down what Michael was doing. And there was no work involved in any of it. So.
My next episode is Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
I really like this episode quite a bit. It is a B episode, but it's one of those episodes where when you're done watching it, you're just like, yeah, that's a B.
I gave it a C.
You know, because it's just like, it's not amazing, it's not bad, it's just good. I really liked a lot of the jokes. I guess, I mean, I really liked the joke at the end where Dwight kept on trying to stump Ben Franklin by, talking about things that hadn't been invented yet or wouldn't be available in America. I thought that was really funny. It's just that, I don't know, it's a take it or leave it episode, but I like it. Safi, what's your next one?
Actually, my next episode is 18. It's Ben Franklin.
Oh.
But I gave it a C because I just thought it was goofy. And
well, all the episodes are goofy, Safi. It's a comedy show.
But, I mean, and Michael, for some reason, this Ben Franklin guy, he's like a speaker who he dresses up as Ben Franklin. And then the men, it was a what do you call it, bachelor party, and they had a stripper, and this guy was supposed to be something like that, at least that's what the women thought, but he was like a speaker you would have at a school. And I guess Michael seemed to think that Ben Franklin was a president. And just a lot of goofy stuff like that.
I think a lot of people did when they were children. They thought that because Ben Franklin was so celebrated that, oh, he was obviously a president too.
I don't think so.
I thought he was a president for a while.
But
as a child.
He also, another little funny, weird thing, but it wasn't that funny to me, but he had a thing for Pam.
Yeah.
He kept flirting with her. Okay, the next one is 17.
My next one is branch closing. This episode felt like a finale. It felt like it could have been very dark. Another dark kind of ending. The one big thing that we both talked about, our biggest issue with it, even though I really liked the episode because I really liked how Michael and Dwight thought they were going to do something, and I really liked how it ended in a positive way. But Safi and I both really didn't like how, Josh, the head of the, what was the other one called, the other place? Stanford?
Yeah, Stanford.
He was in charge of that place, and he leveraged his new promotion for a job offer from Staples. And they acted like it was this terrible thing that no one's ever done before.
Which is
and
ridiculous.
they acted like it was completely unheard of. And I was just like, this is really gay. Like, people do that all the time. I'm not going to say where specifically, but like...
They do it everywhere. Because what you do is, you already have a job, okay? So if you have something like that and you don't get it, at least you have your old job to fall back on. So you're never unemployed.
Yeah.
And people do that all the time. So that's not why they were making that sound like it was unheard of and he was doing a bad thing.
Yeah, the thing that I thought was really cringeworthy was how Jim was like, say what you will about Michael, but he would never do something like that. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily true, actually. Like, he doesn't really know if Michael would have done that or not if given the chance. So, that's kind of BS. I mean, yeah. And it's like, well, what do you mean something like that? Like, it wasn't necessarily a terrible thing. Like, they were wanting to get rid of, like, everyone at Scranton, basically. Or just completely shut it down. And that would have included Jim's friends. So, I don't understand that. Safi, next episode.
Okay, the next one's 17. It's Gay Witch Hunt.
Oh.
And I guess the only
Come
thing
on.
that I liked about it was not that it was funny, because I didn't think it was very funny.
Oh.
Except that if the joke was on them, and I still don't see. This is funny. There's 2 instances in this entire season where Michael is totally gets what's going on. And we'll come to those 2 episodes. He really understands, and the rest of the time he's clueless. Not just about what's going on in business, but about relationships and a lot of things. Like, he's dumb. And
so are you.
so they find out that Oscar's gay, and just some of the stuff, I mean, they wonder if his roommate knows. I don't know, who said that? Was it Michael?
That was Michael.
Yeah, like, yeah, I guess so, that's his partner.
But Safi, you're actually, see, this is the thing, is that you're not being fair, because earlier on in the series, they had that episode where Dwight investigated and found out Oscar was playing hooky, and then he went over and he saw Oscar and Gil, and he didn't know about them being romantically involved either. And it was even worse with him, because he was with them inside watching a movie together, and it was just clear that they were like gay for each other and that they were in love, and he was completely clueless. But you don't care about that, you just care about Michael.
That's the other part of it too. I mean,
no.
This is the thing about the episode that I liked, was that it kind of showed the ignorance that people have, like Angela, and it was kind of informative or educational, and or just to see it played out in front of you. And I mean, still, Michael and Dwight were both, I mean, totally clueless. Like, they couldn't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. And but what's funny, by the end of this season, I think, doesn't Oscar say, I'm going to try to like females or something?
He was making a joke, Safi.
Oh, he was. Okay. I was going to say, I thought that was strange, but okay.
My next episode is Phyllis's wedding. I really liked this episode. I thought it was very good. You know, this series, it has a lot of these kind of event episodes as it goes on, where like, oh, here's this wedding, and here's this baby shower and stuff like that. It's like they're trying to capitalize off of, like, instead of having to do like more office related episodes, let's just do event episodes where they're out of the office. I think that Phyllis's wedding is one of the good ones, though. I really like the episode. I think it's very funny. I really like it a lot, actually. What's your next one, Safi?
My next one is number 16. It's safety training. And first you have them down in the warehouse, the office staff. They're down in the warehouse with all the shipping people. And something happened. Was it Michael that caused Daryl to get I don't know what happened. He has a sprained ankle or broken ankle.
Yeah.
And because he did something...
He pulled the ladder out from under him, and then Daryl fell, and he said, hey, Daryl, how's it hang?
So he wanted them to make sure, like, for instance, none of them were allowed to drive a forklift without a license, because all the people down there in the warehouse have licenses, but you have to have a special license. And Mike will say, oh, no, there might be a few exceptions that I might do that. And he said, no. And then there was some other machine that was really dangerous. You could really hurt yourself. And they're not allowed to use that. In other words, there are just certain things they're not allowed to do down there. They're dangerous. And then Michael didn't want to be... He called Michael...
Here, Safi, you're still doing it.
Okay, well, he called Michael a nerve.
Well, why didn't you just say what you thought about the episodes so we can move on?
It was funny, and it was okay. I gave it a C. So...
My next episode is Initiation. I quite like this episode. I used to really hate it and despise it because I just thought it was a very bare episode. But I think it was actually a good episode because of, like, Dwight trying to become friends with Ryan. And because I think up to this point, Ryan's character really wasn't very well defined. I mean, he's just kind of like, he goes all over the place with his character. And I really liked how in this episode, Ryan set himself apart from the other characters, where he's just like, no, I don't care about making friends. I just want to do my job and be left alone. And Dwight just has to accept that and everything. And so I like that about it. I also like the pretzel day stuff. Actually, we were going to try and make the pretzel for reaching 500 subscribers, but we looked up, like, the recipe, and it just seemed like a never-ending nightmare to make that. So, Safi?
It doesn't seem like they, on the cooking shows that we watch, that they actually make a pretzel very often. I think we might have seen it once. Okay, well, my next one, it's number 15, and it's The Convict. And they had when they did the merger, they had a whole group of people come from the Stanford office who came down to Scranton. And one of them happened to be an ex-con, and they none of them knew that. Even maybe the people who were at Stanford. And he didn't have very much of a personality.
God,
in other
you're
words,
still doing it.
He wasn't much of a character, so
God.
it was interesting to see how ignorant people were. I mean, what that looked like and sounded like. But I think he was kind of like a disposable character. So it was somebody who was not going to be there very long, and he got sick of it, them, making him the object of weirdo-ness or something, and he left. So.
My next episode is Women's Appreciation. This is my last episode in the B tier. I really go back and forth with this episode because on one hand, I think that a lot of it is really hilarious. Like, especially when Michael pretends to be the Flasher and he uses his finger, which I believe that was improvised as well. And so I thought that was, like, amazing and funny. Because, they would never do that today.
Oh, God.
And then Dwight calling Phyllis phallus was really funny. And then I liked it when Dwight asked Michael if he heard about what Karen said in reference to just wanting to be respected. Like, she's like, we just want you guys to treat us with respect. And Michael's like, yeah, did you hear that, Dwight? And Dwight is like, yes, did you hear that, Michael? And he's like, no! And he's just like, he completely, like, breaks down over it. I thought that was really funny. And then I think my favorite, or one of my favorite jokes as well, was when Michael has the frozen yogurt and he's like, I can't believe this yogurt has no calories. And then Pam's like, no one said it has no calories. And he just completely ignores her because he's just so stupid. Remember that, Safi?
Yeah.
Wasn't that hilarious? Like, how dumb could you be? Like, I can't believe the yogurt has no calories. But I think overall, I think the thing that I don't like about it is that this episode could have been focused on the women a little bit more. Because the episode, it just ends up being focused on Michael. And that's kind of the point, but, like, it would have been kind of more interesting if we had, like, an episode where the female characters had, like, a more development and stuff like that. Like, so I think this was kind of a missed opportunity in a way. But I still really like it. Safi?
I agree. Okay, well, my next one, it's number 14. It's The Negotiation. And this had several levels, and, they had to fire Roy. So they were shorthanded in the warehouse, and Daryl was having to... he seemed to be the one in charge, and he had to pick up the workerless work. And so he was kind of, he should have a raise. He wanted a raise. And so it all started with that. And then it ended up Michael's going to ask for a raise. And so it was all of that, and there were some funny parts to it, and it was interesting. So,
That it?
that's it.
My next episode is Cocktails. This is an episode that I used to think was like a D. Because I just hate the stuff with Michael and Jan.
Yeah.
But I just really thought the episode was funny. I liked the stuff with Dwight examining the house and being really awkward at the party. Because basically, instead of like trying to interact with these weird like business people, he just was like examining the house all night long. And then the thing with Michael and the potato salad was really funny. And the thing that I really liked, though, was the part where they're at the bar, the other employees, and Toby spends all night trying to win Pam that toy because he has a crush on her.
Yeah.
And then she tells him to give it to his daughter and everything. And I gotta say, I know that I'm probably going to raise a few eyebrows, but I think that the Pam and Toby relationship is kind of underrated. Because they never explore it at all, basically.
No.
And I just feel like it's kind of a shame because I felt like that was like a highlight of the season, in a way. Like, it was kind of interesting because, like, then you had the stupid stuff with Pam and Roy.
Oh, my God.
She gets back with Roy because, you know, she's so smart and she's such a great character. And she gets back with him and... You know, the freak out that he has when he finds out that she kissed Jim is just really, really, like,
Oh, my God.
embarrassing. So I really hated that. Like, I used to give this episode a D, so it's really kind of amazing that I've turned around on this episode. So
You saw it again, and you just had a different view of it.
well, and I saw the deleted scenes.
Oh,
Kind of
yeah.
helped it, too. Safi?
Okay, well, my next episode's number 13 now. So we're getting down, we're in the middle, we're going to the top 10, is the merger. And that's where Stanford has been closed down. And all the people, if they want to, have to come to Scranton. So that's what they mean by the merger between those two offices. And it's funny, you see all the new people and how they fit in there, and you saw them in the other place where they played video games all the time.
Yeah.
Call of Duty. I know Call of Duty has many different games, so I don't know which one it was, but probably one of the first ones, and because of when this show came out. But anyway, they
It was
down
Call of Duty 3.
Oh, okay.
I recognized it. I believe.
Well, so anyway, so he makes everybody have a gift bag, and mainly all there is are pencils and coupons or something in there, in the gift bag, and and then you have the woman who's nursing, and you have the convict, and all these different people, and it's interesting to see who ends up staying. When after this merger, you see all the characters, and then it goes down to one. So that was my number 13.
My next one is the negotiation episode. I love this episode. I thought it was amazing. I loved how Michael ended up being like a masterful negotiator at the end of the episode. Because he tells Jan that he's not going to give her any more sex if she doesn't let him have a raise. And it's just like, he completely destroys her as well. You know, like, I just thought that was amazing. I love that part. And then I love the part where Michael was with Daryl and he's negotiating with him back at the office.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing the quiet talking thing where he's like... and I actually... That's one of the things that I like to do all the time. You know, I like to do that with Safi.
Yeah, I wonder where you got that.
And
now I know.
I got that from this episode.
Yeah.
And so I like to be like, next episode.
Goofy.
No, it's not. It's hilarious. You make a good point. That's what he said, too. He said, you make a good point. Really quietly. Okay, Safi.
Okay, now we're getting close to top 10. Number 12 is product recall.
Oh.
And, well, that's a B.
Yeah.
I gave it a B. But this was about, which is really weird because I never even thought of something like this happening for real. But, you know, they sell paper products, and they have this really nice paper, and the mill, for some reason, they have to go there once a week to check on what they're doing, if they're doing a good job.
Yeah, they can't handle it by themselves.
That really shocks me, and I wonder if that's really true.
I don't know.
And so, apparently the watermark was changed, I don't even know how they would begin to do this, into something that was, well, people, cartoon characters having sex.
It was animals. In fact, probably be able to look it up.
Well, one of them was Mickey Mouse.
The Office Product Recall Water.
And so that means that all of their, and they have sold several cases of this paper, they have to get it all back. And they have to give the people back their money. And if they don't apologize profusely and swear it never is going to happen again, they're in a big risk of losing their business.
Yeah, Safi, this is the watermark.
Oh.
I don't think it's that bad at all, actually. It's really not that explicit.
No. It's not that.
Compared to what it could be.
Boy, I know, really.
And the fact that they don't even really show it in the episode.
I didn't remember seeing that.
I mean, he shows it, but, like, it's not really focused on very much at all, and, like, yeah.
So that was weird, but some of the things that Michael comes up with to try to appease the customers it's funny. So.
Well, because he picks the worst customer,
Yeah,
and Safi,
Karen.
you really like the part where he told her to complain to the ungrateful biatch hotline. You thought that was an amazing joke.
I thought it was funny.
My next episode is Traveling Salesman. You know, these two episodes, because I'll just group the two together, and The Return. You know, these episodes are good with this little storyline that they did with Andy taking away Dwight's job and being a kiss-ass to Michael. And I really like The Return where Dwight comes back and everything. But the thing I don't like about it is Andy. Mm-hmm. I used to think this episode, or these two episodes, were some of the best episodes of the series. But now that I've watched it again, I really don't like Andy. He's very annoying. He's very creepy. And the deleted scenes make it even worse. Mm-hmm. Because he follows Michael to the bathroom and stuff. And it's really, really creepy and weird. And I guess the point was that Andy was going crazy because he didn't want to be fired after everyone from Stanford had seemingly just been, like, taken away from the office. Like, you know, one by one, they're gotten rid of. And he just didn't want to be next, but he's terrible. But it's still really, really good. I still give it an A. So, Safi?
Well, my number 11 is Traveling Salesman.
Oh,
so,
beat that.
I just, Andy is really weird. And,
yeah.
But there's some funny parts to it. Wasn't this the one they went out in twos?
Twos?
Yeah, you know, it was Karen and Phyllis.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, I forgot to mention something. Since
well, go ahead.
You're kind of being mealy-mouthed.
Well, you told me to. You said I just talk about too much in the episode, so that's why I'm doing that.
Yeah,
they split up into pairs. I mean, everybody is in a
But
pair.
talk about things that you like specifically. Oh, okay, here it is. Andy comes up with this term where he says that he Schruted something, and that people around the office, when they screw up, they say they Schruted something. And he asks Michael Do you think Schrute comes from Dwight Schrute? And instead of Michael like figuring that out, he's like, I don't know. Who knows how words are formed? It's just Andy's like, God, I have to put in a lot of work here. And Safi?
Okay. Well, now we're on the top 10.
My number, oh, I guess I already did, or...
My number 10 is beach games. And
Yeah, you go ahead.
this is when Michael has been asked to interview for this corporate position. And he seems to think he's got the job, which...
He really should have.
And he goes so far as to get rid of his condo on eBay, which would not probably be a very good place to get your money's worth. And but so he wants to pick a successor, so he wants to and make a memorable day where everybody has these memories. So he lets everybody go to the beach, but of course Toby's not allowed to go to the beach. He's really mean to him. He's all ready to go, and he said, "No, you can't go. You have to stay here." And so they have to do all these activities like eat a ton of hot dogs.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to do Survivor.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really great.
And he did mention something about Survivor. And, so a hot dog eating contest. And then you take an egg or something and you, and a blindfold. You wear a blindfold and you have to take it around these tiki torches that are all lit. And it doesn't work. And there's teams. And basically, though, Michael is doing this because he wants to pick the best person, whoever won the most of these little contests, and they would get to be his successor.
Yeah.
That's the only, and they don't know that. They don't know that until they're halfway into eating the hot dog competition, and he admits to them that's what this is all about. So.
My next one is safety training. I thought this episode was hilarious. I thought it was really good. I love the thing, of course, where Michael says, Dwight, you ignorant slut. And that's how he starts off his speech and everything. And I just thought it was a great episode. Like, I don't know what else to say, but, like, I give it, like, an A+. So, Safi, what's your next one?
My next one is number 9. It's Phyllis's wedding. And there's funny parts and there's goofy parts. And as usual, you have Michael, who had recognized that, what's his name? That one guy was terrible. I mean, he actually had an insight. But in this, of course, his usual lack of insight. And Phyllis really wanted him to participate because he's paying for it. In other words, he gave him, he's paying her, her salary. I guess that's what she meant by that, right? Or was there something more involved with the payment? But so she wants him to participate. And her father's in a wheelchair, and his job is to push the wheelchair.
She said explicitly it was because he gave her a lot of time off for the honeymoon.
Oh, okay. It was the time off. It was the vacation.
That whole thing with the wheelchair, that was one of the moments where I really agreed with Michael as well, because that fucking lazy-ass old man just gets up out of his wheelchair. Like, what the fuck was that about? Like, that was so cringeworthy and stupid.
I didn't like it no matter what.
When Michael said this is bullshit and he drags the wheelchair, I thought, good for Michael, because, like, that was really weird. Like, if he didn't need a wheelchair and if he didn't need someone to push him, then why the hell would he be doing that? Like, that was really obnoxious of him to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, this episode was kind of a mixed bag. And then there was a guy with dementia or Alzheimer's.
Kind of like you.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. And Dwight's in charge of making sure that all the people are legitimately there, because he had watched the movie Wedding Crashers, And so Jim gave him the idea that there's probably wedding crashes. So he mistakenly gets rid of the guy with dementia because the guy acts like he doesn't know who they are, the wedding couple. And it's just because he doesn't have the brain to know who they are at the moment he asked them. So I mean, there's some funny moments and goofy moments. It's interesting because, like Marco was saying at the beginning, that this is an event that has nothing to do with the office. It's away from the office, and it's a wedding. And it's not. Phyllis isn't exactly the most attractive, young-looking thing.
No.
And so it's interesting that they do focus on her, and then how the furnace guy or whatever he is, he wants to be with her forever. And I mean, I thought that was neat. It isn't just about the pretty person. It's about just somebody, a regular person. So I thought that was neat too. So.
I mean, Safi, Pam isn't a pretty person either.
Yeah,
because when we say pretty person, we mean someone who's like really like glamorous, who's always like like I don't know. I'm not Barbie, like a Barbie type of personality.
What is her name?
But like Pam, her name isn't Marco. Pam is not a pretty person, but I guess she's a pretty person in the context of The Office, but I guess, but like
she's really just a regular person.
They're all regular people. That's the point of it. My next episode is Diwali. I thought this was a very, very good episode, very funny. I thought the stuff with Michael and what's her name? Carol? I thought that stuff. I don't really like their relationship very much. It's really underdeveloped. It just seems kind of like, why is she even with him in the first place if she doesn't like him so much?
She's kind of a foil for Jan.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, not anymore because she gets out of the season so fast.
Yeah.
Like at the end of season 2, it was kind of a positive thing where Michael chose the good choice, and then it just immediately backfires on him.
Instead of the cuckoo brain.
And so I thought it was kind of like unfortunate that she wasn't in the season more, and that like we had to have all this stuff with Michael and Jan and Michael and Jan. So.
And Jan ends up moving in with him in the end.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my number 8 is Benihana Christmas. And this is, it starts off bad. They're going to have a Christmas party, an office Christmas party. And then, whatever comes in, she's furious. And Michael has sent out Christmas cards where he superimposed his face on her ex-husband.
He only sent that to her, though.
Oh, I thought it was a Christmas card he sent to several people.
No.
Well, she did not like that because that was something that she did with him, the ex-husband, and her family, her children. They were on a ski holiday. And Michael changed the picture and made it him.
Skis greetings.
Which never happened. So this is really bad because Michael has paid for a week or something at Sandals Resort for them for a Christmas present. Well, that's a real place too, by the way. I've seen the commercials for it. I was really surprised. I'd never heard of it, but that is a real place. And so she breaks up with him, and so he's devastated. So what do? The men, why do they do this? They go to Benihana's, and while the rest of the staff gets ready for the Christmas party, and they go to Benihana's to cheer him up, I guess. And that's funny. There's a lot of stuff that happens with that that's funny.
What's your favorite joke?
Oh, I don't remember any.
Why not? You say there's a lot of stuff that happens, but what's the best thing that happens?
Well, there's another couple at the table, and you have Dwight.
And they're really rude.
Well, they should have just moved over.
Yeah, there were so many.
For their sakes.
Yeah, there were so many other seats. They were there as a business party. They were really selfish to like not move seats. Actually.
Yeah, and Dwight has to sit on the other side of them, and of this couple, so he has to yell everything, and he can't hear what's being said because we've been to a place like that a few times, and it's really noisy, and it can get really loud when people come there to party. I just like Christmas episodes, and I've said this about other shows. I like that they make an effort to make a holiday show. So, okay.
My next episode is The Merger. I thought this one was obviously a classic, hilarious episode. There were jokes from beginning to end, and I have a little list, of course. I like the part where Lazy Scranton, the rap song, is one of the funniest things of the series. Right, Safi? Remember that?
I guess.
The rap song. And then Michael, I think this might be my favorite joke of the season, or maybe my second favorite joke. But he says, I thought it was going to be an A+, but I also forgot there's an A++. Like, that's just, like, really... Like, just imagine, like, if I said that about, like, a video we did or something. Like, it's just so, like, ugh. And then also, the black guy, the other one, not Stanley, when he nods over to Stanley. No, the new one from Stanford.
Oh.
When he nods over at Stanley, and then Stanley's just like he just, he doesn't want any part of it at all.
No.
He doesn't want to be friends with that guy just because he's black or anything. And so the guy's just, like, completely, like, taken off guard. I think his name was, like, Melvin or Marvin or something. I don't know. But I can't remember. And then also, of course, when Karen says, who's Bob Vance? And then Phyllis says, you have a lot to learn about this town, sweetie. And, that was another great joke. So those are my favorite jokes, that episode. Safi?
Okay, well, Marco, there's quite a few of these, my top 7 that Marco put lower. So you've already heard this a while ago. My number 7 is Diwali. And I really liked this episode because I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, this is another thing, that I'd never heard of Diwali. And I thought it was a good way to learn about another cultural event in a fun way. And they really got into it. It was nice to see people from the office, like Michael, for example, having fun. And Dwight, who's usually pretty ignorant and narrow-minded, I should say, about people, like about gays, for example. But he knew all about this Diwali.
He knows more about Hindu religion than Kelly does.
Yeah, Kelly is the Indian girl.
And that's the funny, ironic part I really like.
But it was just a lot of fun. And I think when they got to the end, they show this scene and they're like dancing in front of all the Indians and Asian Indians. And it's to me that seemed like that wasn't even, so that was like off camera, like behind the scenes. It didn't even seem like part of the episode. And you could see they were having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I thought that was fun. It was different. And it's another thing that I like when people make an effort to include some kind of other cultural event, and that was another thing. This is another event. Marco talked about this, like Phyllis's wedding, and this was Diwali, and it was at another completely different place, and where it's not at the office. It's completely away from it. Everybody was invited to come, so from the office. So, okay, go ahead.
And I would just like to mention the merger is in the S tier, and all the rest of these episodes are in the S tier. So,
And he's not saying F, he's saying S, as in superior.
my next episode is Product Recall. I struggled with this episode because I put it a lot lower originally. I put it like in the B's or A's, but I had to move it up because this is a very rewatchable episode. This is actually one of the ones where I can remember, like, when I want to watch an Office episode, this is one of the ones that I'll go to. I think it's really hilarious. I think this is the one, is this the one with the vampires and the bats? Or the bat and everything?
Which one?
The Product Recall? Or not? Yeah, I think,
he sees, Dwight sees, poop on the floor.
Okay.
A little tiny
yeah,
bit.
it is then.
He thinks it's from a bug, but it's from a bat.
Number one, this episode has one of the best openings of the series, where Jim pretends like he's Dwight, and he dresses up like him. Number two, I really liked it when Dwight was trying to trap the bat, and Jim was pretending he was becoming a vampire, and Dwight was saying, "one crisis at a time."
Yeah.
And then later on, he's looking up research on the computer about vampires, and he says, "this doesn't mean Jim is going to become a vampire, only that he has the vampiric germ." And I just thought, like, the vampiric germ, like, that's just so hilarious and everything. And so I think that this episode is funny from beginning to end. I almost want to put it higher. Like, that's how much I like it. Like, I think it's really underrated. Safi?
Okay, well, my number 6 is the coup.
Oh.
And I liked it. I thought it was funny. And they have this movie night, and it's not a night at all. It's movie day, and it's on Mondays. And usually I would think something like that would be on a Friday. Maybe the last Friday of the month or something. But they would have it every Monday, and they started off with training videos, and then they moved up to like episodes of a show and then movies, but I think it only went for half an hour. And while they were in there, Jan comes along, and she's mad because this is when Michael had given her up, and she was being a jerk to him. And anyway, so she leaves, and everybody's back at their desk, and people are worried that they're going to all get fired if they keep doing this movie night thing. Not just him, but everybody. And so that's when Dwight plans this, with Angela's encouragement, of course, to try to get the job. And of course he talks to Jan, and Jan tells on him, which I thought was weird. Tells Michael, and this is when Michael has clarity. There's just a couple of times where he really has clarity about what's going on, and Marco's already talked about this. He had it lower, but he puts Dwight through the ringer. He says, "Oh, I'm going far away to get my teeth worked on, to get a crown or something," and so when he comes back, he to the office, Michael knows what he's done. Met with Jan, and he offers him a bunch of. He doesn't just offer him M&Ms. He offers him peanut M&Ms. Now,
those things are hard.
I know that, and if you get a crown, depending on how long it goes, I've had really miserable experiences with that. You're not going to want to eat anything like a peanut M&M.
No.
So he gives it to me. He eats like a whole handful.
Yeah.
And so he's catching him in the lie, and he lets him. It's so funny. Now this is why I said he really has clarity in this. He goes through probably an hour of pretending like, oh, maybe Dwight should be in charge now, and he'll just be his assistant. And he makes them believe. They even announced the whole office this is going to happen. And then he goes for the juggler and says, I know what you did. And you could tell through the whole thing he was mad.
Yeah.
And pissed off. And so I thought that was really good.
My next episode is Beach Games. I think this is a classic episode. It's so much fun. It's very funny. I think my favorite joke, this might be my favorite joke of the season as well, is the part where they're doing the hot dog eating contest. And Stanley is like, do you really expect me to believe that you're making your recommendation on this basis? And then Michael's like, word. And then Stanley shoves hot dogs in his mouth. And
none of them can do it. No, they really can't. I've seen people do hot dog competitions. And if you know who Christy Yamaguchi is, she's a gold medal skater, really tiny. She did hot dog competitions. And she would eat a lot. But they were eating the bun and everything. You're not supposed to do that. You just eat the hot dog. So.
That's not true.
No, I've seen it.
No, you're a liar.
No, I'm not.
But I thought that was hilarious because just that is really funny. Like that, he's making the recommendation for his job based on a hot dog eating contest.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing with the conversion of like, Pam is like, well, you gave this team a gold star, you gave that team an A+, you gave this a that and this a that. How do I compare these at all? And he's just like, I don't know.
He says, look it up.
Yeah. So I love this episode. I think it's amazing. Safi?
Okay, well, my next one, which Margot's mentioned, like I said, I think maybe every one of my next 4 episodes or things he's already talked about.
Probably.
Women's appreciation.
Oh.
And there were a lot of funny parts to this, and Meredith tries to squeeze her van into a very narrow place, and you could hear the crunching of the van against another car, and she has to back out. She says, I think the space might be too small. And everybody else had gotten out of the van or hurried inside. And then they go in, and one thing they do besides that before it doesn't matter, but Michael, it's really all about Michael's problem with Jan.
Yeah.
They go to a like a Victoria's Secret store, which is all lingerie or something. And Pam gets a bathrobe, a real pretty fluffy bathrobe that she wants to cut up into towels. Because I thought that was weird.
I thought that was idiotic.
Yeah, really stupid. She could go to a fancy store and get real nice towels. She doesn't need to cut up a beautiful... It's not a sexy bathrobe. It's just a real warm, cozy, comfy
It's
one.
a pink bathrobe, like...
It's real pretty. It was real pretty. And so, but it was funny. There were some funny parts. And then especially when it's called Women's Appreciation, and that was his intention, but it ends up being about his being abused by Jan. And then he leaves her a voicemail, and they all say, no, don't do that, don't do that. And here she comes strolling into the office, and she says, oh, look, and she says goodbye. All the other women, they scurry out of there. And she goes, oh, look, a message from you. And then she listens to it, and of course, they break up. So.
My next episode is The Convict. This is one where I think it's funny from beginning to end. I think it is just really, really, like, solid. Like, it's basically like there's a laugh per minute. Obviously the prison mic thing is one of the best jokes of the series. And I really liked how Toby had to come to the rescue at the end. It was Toby that came, and he's the one that convinced Michael to let them out of the conference room. So I thought that was kind of cool. that Toby was involved like that, and I really thought it was funny. Safi, did you think it was funny?
I forgot about that part, but
you forgot about Prison Mike?
He locked them in the meeting room so they could see what it was like being in jail. So I said the Schrute, the real guy who had an actual prison, he was just like at the breaking point, and he didn't show it, and he's very calm about it. But that was it for him. Okay, well, my next one, and Marco's already mentioned, in fact, he mentioned a million years ago, is Back from Vacation.
Oh, God!
This is where, I mean, he's already talked about it, but he because that other woman wouldn't go to Sandals with him, well, we knew he was with somebody. Well, he took Jan, and she was lying, I don't know if she was naked or topless on the beach, and so he took pictures. Well, he emailed that. You know how you've heard about this, it's almost like a cliche, where you send an email out, but you mass send it out. You know, like a mass sent mail. And instead of I don't know where he was sending it actually. But he sent
to Todd Packer.
Oh, of course. So all these people got the picture and they knew it was her. And I think he sent it to people in corporate. And what's his name? Is it Kevin? Made a poster out of it, and he was going to take it home and display it in his house.
No, Safi, that was the poster from the warehouse that they put up.
Well, so he took theirs.
They had to take it down.
Right, so he took theirs, but still somebody made a poster of it. And so there was all this stuff about, and it was funny. So
my next episode is a Benihana Christmas. I think this used to be my favorite episode of the series, and because there's just so much to it. I mean, you have the stuff with Andy being a kiss ass, you have the stuff with Karen, you have the stuff with Karen and Pam being friends to make the party that they wanted to make, while Angela, she was making the really boring party, and they had the party conflict together, and it all gets resolved at the end in a positive way. And there's just so many funny things, with the waitresses, where Michael has to mark one of them so he can tell them apart, because he thinks that they're Asian, so they look the same. He can't tell them apart, even though I could tell them apart.
Good.
I mean,
dipshit.
The thing that I was wondering too was why they were different than the maids that they had at the restaurant. That wasn't the maid that waited on them.
Maid?
Or the waitress. That wasn't the waitress that waited on them. So I guess Cindy, the waitress, she had two other waitresses go with them or something. But I thought that was kind of weird. And I guess that's more a part of the joke, is that Michael couldn't tell them apart. And I think the funniest part was when Dwight was sitting there and Jim kept on messing with him and saying when Cindy had to close her eyes so that she could imagine what her dream house would look like, Jim says she's asleep, and then Dwight's like, "Oh, narcolepsy." It's just, you feel bad for Dwight, because he was trying to be in on the conversation. So, Safi?
Okay, my number 3 is branch closing.
Oh,
And I thought this was hilarious. Probably one of the most hilarious episodes of the season, because Michael finds out that they're closing. They're closing his branch, and so he and Dwight go to the CFO's house, and they're going to talk to him and convince him not to do it. Well, the guy never shows up, and so they're out and they're jumping on the trampoline, and they sat on his front lawn.
Dwight looked through his trash.
Oh yeah, they did all this stuff, and then did they find out there, like, by evening time, and they still weren't, the boss wasn't there. Nobody was there. Nobody was home. I thought somebody would call the police on them. I really did. And nobody did. Because it was not a very nice house in a very nice neighborhood. And did they find out there that the branch wasn't closing? And
I can't remember.
Well, they found out before they got back to the office that they weren't closing, and they thought it was because of what they did.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know how they would think that when they never talked to anybody. So, it was just all funny and goofy, and so that's my number 3.
My number 2 is Business School. I think that this is a masterpiece episode that Safi is being a biatch to.
Not fair.
Because
I don't like it.
I think it was a great development with the whole Michael and Ryan relationship. You know, this was an instance where Safi is not recognizing...
Well, it's a negative development.
No, it was a positive one because Michael was finally able to determine by himself that Ryan did not really like him and that Ryan was not really like the prodigy that he thought he was. And because when he humiliated him and said all that stuff about the company behind Michael's back and then brought him in just for the extra credit, you know, Michael destroyed him. I mean, he destroyed him. He destroyed all the stupid students there at the business school. And then he's like, pack up your things, you're moving to the annex. And that was basically like a punishment that was like worse than getting fired, because Ryan would have to sit next to Kelly for the rest of time.
And she thought they had a relationship.
So, like, that was badass of Michael putting Ryan in the annex.
That was kind of one of the few times he had insight. Like 3 times.
Oh, now you're admitting it.
Yeah, but still, I didn't like it. I didn't like the way, because none of those other people work at his office, the students. And the professor doesn't work at his office, so he didn't have to be rude and disgusting, and childish.
I disagree. And then also, I love the thing with Pam and how she has her art show where the infamous painting of the office is introduced, and the way that no one shows up basically except for
Michael.
Oscar. Oscar shows up with Gil so that they can laugh about it and say that it's bad and it's like motel art. And then Michael is the only one who shows up, and he makes her feel really good. And it's a great episode for Michael. I mean, it really makes Michael a great character. And so I think it's a perfect episode. So, Safi?
Okay, well, my number 2 is The Job. Marco's already talked about this.
Ugh.
And this was the finale, and that was one thing we have had trouble with in doing all of these shows that have different seasons, that people have trouble doing finales.
Well, it's like they don't want to make a finale anymore for some reason.
Well, this is definitely, you can tell it's a finale.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I did like about it. And it also had multiple components, where this is where you really find out that Jan's insane. She's a goofball. And then the way they handle that whole thing about, I think they should have told, I think they would have told Michael in the real world that he would be taking her place. And since they were together, and they're going to fire her and then hire him, that just wouldn't work. I mean, that's impossible. And they don't, he says that in the end, and then he goes and tells Jan, or he hints to her, doesn't really come out and tell her, and then Jan comes storming in there, and then he ends up telling Michael, well, you're no longer in consideration for the job. So I just don't even know how that would have worked anyway. But he didn't know. They didn't. The guy didn't tell him. I thought the guy did a terrible job. And then he ends up hiring Ryan. But I mean, there's just a lot of different pieces to this. And then, of course, Jim, when he interviews, they all have to produce some kind of like your sales record or something that shows how well you did in the company or how well you're doing. And in there, Pam had written him a special little note, and you could tell that he was probably going to go back to her, although they never really show that.
Yeah, they did.
Did they show the whole process? Oh,
no, but they showed
by the office and he opens the door.
Yeah, that's because that's all.
Go out for dinner.
That's all you needed to show, Safi.
That's what they showed. So there's a lot of different components, but I guess the craziest one was to show how insane Jan is.
Yeah.
And which, you thought she was nuts, but not like that. So.
My number one is Gay Witch Hunt. Now, I don't know. I mean, I might have to go back and really rethink this because I really had trouble ranking the episodes this season. They're all just so good, except for a couple of them, and so I really had trouble. But this episode is the one where I think it's probably one of the most rewatchable episodes of the series. It's very hilarious. The moment where Michael kisses Oscar is probably one of the top 5 jokes of the entire series. And what makes that joke even better is the fact that Steve Carell improvised that, which is just amazing. Because nowadays, if you did that,
oh boy,
they'd pretend like it was like sexual harassment that he did that, and they would say, we need to cancel this show because he improvised that and everything. But it was so funny. And just the whole episode, it was funny from beginning to end. And it's probably like my top go-to episode to just watch any Office episode. I'd probably put on Gay Witch Hunt because it's so funny. All the jokes in it. And my food review for the season is, I would say, actually, I haven't come up with it yet. So, Safi, what's your number one?
Well, my number one, and it was obvious to me that it was going to be my number one, is The Return. And there's a lot of components to this. Emotional, hilarious, I laughed a lot. And, this is another thing where Michael recognized that guy was just sucking up to him. I mean, this is like... he has such few moments of clarity and intelligence that when they happen, they really stand out. And he goes and gets, first Oscar comes back. He's been on a vacation, and he also bought a new car with the money that they gave him for promising not to sue the company for Michael outing him without his permission, which is a total bad thing. And so he was in real good spirits. I said, well, Marco, is he really gay? Because we have this all the time now.
No, he's not.
And he's not. He's not gay at all. He's married. He has kids. Anyway, so Dwight does this thing where he goes and protects Angela. She didn't mail something on time to the corporate. And he actually takes them all the way to New York and back, and he's late for work. And that's one thing Michael's clear about. He doesn't like people who are late. And so he ends up, he gets rid of them because that other guy, Andy, put it in his head that he found this toll slip and wanted to know why. For that when he was late, to explain his lateness. And Angela wouldn't say anything. And he didn't want to say anything because Angela didn't want him to say anything, so he just got let go. And so this was not just about Oscar's return, but after being let go and being really successful, and I don't know where he was working, Staples, Michael goes to get him there and apologizes to him, and he comes back, and they're having a party celebrating Oscar's return, and they have these those what are they called, those
chimichangas?
No, those things,
enchiladas,
you bat them and
burritos,
all the candy comes out.
Oh, piñata.
pinatas, and so.
And Michael asks him, or no, wait, no, that's Gay Witch, or
No,
wait.
it's The Return.
Oh, it's that one. Oh, yeah, and then Michael's like, does that remind you of what it was like growing up or something? And then Oscar says, it reminds me of the movie The Three Amigos. And Michael's really, like, complimented by that because he loves that movie. And, you know, he's just totally clueless about it.
So there's just a lot of components in here to like this show, this episode. I really liked a lot. And I laughed so many times. And like I said, I kind of use that as a measure, especially with these comedy shows, as a measure of, because that's what they aim to do, is to make you laugh. And if they don't make you laugh, then it's not funny, and therefore it's not good. And this particular episode was good in many ways, not just for being comedy.
Yeah.
And my review, my food review is, I would say it's like a really good pizza with everything on it.
Ooh.
So it had a little bit of everything. It wasn't just events in the office, it was out of the office. It focused on different people. It had the relationships, the on and off relationships between Pam and Jim, and also Jan and Michael. So, I mean, it was full of stuff. It was very rich, I would say, the season. So, how about you? Did you get something figured out?
Not really. Well, I thought this season is like a party in terms of food. It's like when you go to a really good party and there's a lot of food of different types and you just go crazy with it and you just eat everything in sight and you just keep eating and eating and eating because you want to try everything that's there. And I guess the one time where I could kind of say like that I went crazy with the food at a party, besides the band camp thing with at the high school, I went crazy there. I think we talked about it before in detail of like what all I ate, which I basically ate like the entire buffet. But there was another party where I think it was like some sort of something to do with like a wedding of some kind. I can't remember, but like
it was probably a wedding reception.
They had cold cuts. They had it was at their house. They had cold cuts. So, like, they had ham, turkey, and salami. They had cheese, different types of cheeses, and they had shrimp. And so I took a piece of bread, and I made a regular, like, turkey sandwich. I ate that. And then I got up there, and I had shrimp. And then I got up there, and I took shrimp, and I put it in a sandwich, and I put all the other meats that they had up there and the cheeses and all the sauces on that one sandwich.
Oh, God.
And I ate it. And it tasted pretty good, actually. It mostly tasted like barbecue sauce and shrimp. But it tasted pretty good. And it just felt like that's what a party should be, where you love it all. So you just want to enjoy everything that's there. Because, like, that's what a party is. It's like you go crazy and eat everything, you know.
And Marco actually had more episodes in the A and Superior category. I had none in the Superior because I just thought the A episodes
that is terrible.
were the A episodes. I didn't have to make them Superior. They're already Superior.
That's not the point. The point of Superior is that those are the episodes where, like, they're your top episodes. Like, they're ones that are even better than, like, being an A.
But my picks were kind of really stretched out. I had a few D's, I had several C's, and several B's, and several A's. So it's pretty evenly distributed, I believe. And Marco was more focused on, he had a lot more A's, I believe.
Yeah, I had a lot of S's and A's.
Yeah. So
anyway,
that's it. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. So you can tell us what you're watching, and you can share if you've watched this show, and what seasons you've watched, and what you thought of this season.
I think they're mostly just going to be making fun of you, Safi, for discrediting Michael so much.
I don't like him.
Even though it's a comedy show, and he's
Except
like...
when he has clarity. When he has clarity, like when Dwight went behind his back, and he came back and he didn't have that work done on his teeth, and he gave him peanut M&Ms to eat, and the guy just shoves a whole big handful in his mouth. I mean, even if you hadn't had work, shoving a whole handful of peanut M&Ms.
Even I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I know. I that's hard on your teeth.
I eat them one at a time.
Yeah.
I like to suck on them sometimes, and so.
So yeah, that's so. I mean, and he had a bad look on his face. He was mad and cold, and so I thought that was interesting because he's usually just a goofball, and he doesn't think. He gets himself into trouble. He's clueless, but boy, he wasn't clueless in this case. Not one bit. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye.